Yeah. Skip the intro. Skip the intro. It's the same thing as it always is. Hello, it's me, No Name 117 Spore. Think of this as a basically a bonus episode. This isn't like a main episode in the series. This is 50.5. You know, I got done with the recording earlier. It was way earlier. Did some stuff, and then there was some stuff I was planning to do in like community posts, and I've been experimenting a lot with that lately with polls and such. Finally trying to get into that, and ultimately, what I was thinking was the sort of thing I would do if it was on another channel. They'd do it in a video. If that was like RVT asking for this, and I know that he has done this. You know, he he would do this in a video and then do a community post, and I kind of didn't do what I was talking about justice in the video itself. I was looking at, what vague decisions do I have? And I think I want to go into detail a little bit more here. Um, so this is not a proper turn or anything. I'm not going to be saving this. I'm just going to be clicking X when I'm done. And also, if you're coming from the immediate end of the previous video, I forgot to mention my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter, so sorry about that. Actually, probably not sorry, because that probably made you happier. Anyway, yeah. So, when we go and actually try to deal with this, right now we have a monthly balance of nearly negative 11,000. And I tried to reduce that a little bit. It didn't quite go down. The good news is, we have a lot of ships here. Like, that's 43 ships. How many can we remove? So, if we move everything in mothball or on a foreign station, we have 29 ships that we can, put probably half of these in the mothball fleet, half in the reserve fleet. Um, Probably focus on the CAs first since they're essentially pre-dreads, and then, or I mean the later ones aren't, but yeah, and like maybe even the early dreadnoughts in the mothball fleet, and then the rest into the reserve fleet. We can get a lot of money back from this. We have light cruisers, we have destroyers, and corvettes. Um, Actually, I think I will save this turn, uh, just just to put these guys on foreign station because they had been brought back to the active fleet, and I'm just gonna leave them on foreign station to help compensate. Except for this last one in Northern Europe because it just kind of needs to be there. Yeah. So we definitely have stuff we can mothball and reserve. Um, but I want to kind of discuss what the building plan is going to be. So the expectation is we'll probably be at war in 3 to 5 years, as is typical for this game. Right now, in 2 months, we are going to get Andromash back, um, converted to the seaplane carrier. Uh, whether I will convert a fourth Phoebe class cruiser into a seaplane carrier. It will probably have an R1916, so it'll technically be of a different variant to the Endermash. These two are the same, the Endermash and Iphignia. Apollo's her own variant, and it'll probably be its own separate thing, although more closely related to these guys, I think. So that will have to be something where I determine whether I do that once these two, or once Andrew Mash completes, or if that's something I do later on, probably once the first four Nest class destroyers complete. And if I'll also have to rename the Nest class destroyers. I will save that for next time. I should probably make a note to myself somewhere. But in terms of what to do, in terms of like thinking about the future, thinking about what to scrap, thinking about what to keep. So the Phoebe class is starting to get really long in the tooth. I think right now it seems like Naiad's being voted on for a conversion, so I'll probably go with her. Um, honestly, I kind of want to keep like Sirius and Terpishore around. I mean, Sirius was involved in a lot of early engagements and did very well. So, Sirius receiving the AV conversion might be in the cards, and Sirius, yeah, that might be in the cards after Naiad, or Cilia. I mean, I'll probably want to do Naiad anyway because Naiad's also really decorated. Um, so I'll probably get the decorated Phoebes, in that. The undecorated ones not. I mean, if Cilia wins the poll, I'll take her instead of Naiad, but that could go either way. Well, okay. It really can't go in either way. There's like 5 votes for Naiad and none for Cilia or Scylla right now. Um, and then yeah, probably the rest of the Phoebes are going to be scrapped. The pearls I'll probably keep a little longer. Well, okay, I might consider keeping a couple of the Phoebes in service as backups if Comus class cruisers get sunk. But they'd be mothballed at that point. They're just really not that relevant and not easy to upgrade. The two Cambrian class cruisers are going to have to, basically just go in for a rebuild, stock rebuild. There's not really much I can add, so it'll probably just go in for like a base rebuild like this, and come out of it just fine. Um, there is some thought where I could replace the machinery, and that would be like I mean, I could get a 29 knot ship out of that, but if we're talking that, that's a 34,000 rebuild cost for a 29 knot ship. Um, Actually, that looks to be about the same cost as the ship itself, so that would be pointless. And I mean, these are protected cruisers, so they will probably receive a stock refit. Um, but Spartan, Cambrian, and Philoma will definitely be the lower ships in the fleet, as these 7 are complete, and then we have the 2 Minervas and 2 Venuses completing in a little under 10 months, a little under a year. So the other, okay, so that's the thing. Phoebe class cruisers convert what I want to AVs. Whatever wins the poll, and a couple more probably, and scrap a cup, scrap a few of them. Maybe even scrap the rest of them because the pearl class is like obsolete at this point, and the pearls could also be put on foreign station too. Um, I don't know. I'll see on that. Might even consider like a Pearl class AV conversion. Although I think we would need to get larger AVs. Yeah. But yeah. Probability Pearl class I I I don't think they're relevant in the next war. They're well armed, but they're not super relevant. Um Maybe if they're on like yeah, if they're deployed elsewhere in the world. So Pearl and Phoebe class cruisers are definitely on the chopping block. But the question I want to ask is, should I scrap them? Should I scrap them now or should I scrap them after the next war? And how many should I convert? How many should I scrap? Um, that's ultimately, those are ultimately the questions. How many of each class should I keep around as replacements for CLs or replacements for Comus class cruisers if they're lost? Because right now we actually do have like one extra Comus class cruiser in Sybil. Uh, or, is that something where I rely on Spartan, Cambrian, and Philomal to fill that role if needed? Um, and just scrap, the rest of the Phoebes and Pearls relatively soon. Um, aside from what I want to convert to AVs. So that's kind of the first decision. What to do with the Pearls and Phoebes? The you know, 1899 cruisers, other than the ones which get converted to AVs, because that program is going to come to an end, and a lot of those are going to get scrapped or basically be held as backups for foreign station ships. Next thought comes down to the Benbows. And actually, I might pull Benbow off of foreign station and put some of those lighter cruisers on foreign station, because I think that would be more efficient from a maintenance perspective. Um, so in terms of these old CAs, Benbows are basically the Benbows and Camperdowns and Diadems. Okay, to a lesser extent, the Diadems. These are basically my pre-dreadnoughts, or the equivalent of pre-dreadnoughts in this campaign, because I couldn't effectively build them. Um, and that leaves some questions as to what to do with them, because they're not particularly useful, but they are large, so they can make decent CVL conversions. The other thought, and one thing I've kind of wanted to do, is there's a little trick if you go down to 6-inch guns and have 2-inch turrets, and you can upgrade or 2-inch protected turrets. This is a legal rebuild. And if you I mean, people who've watched my videos, they've seen me do this before. I did this in the Canadian campaign. Um, what was the other campaign I did it in? Oh, there was one offline campaign I did it in. There was like an offline German campaign I did it in. Uh, I know that the main German game I've been doing, I did not do this in. I don't think I ever did this in the. Yeah, I don't think I did this in the Japanese game or the Italian game. Um, Maybe I did in the Italian game, I'm not sure. But you can place down single 6-inch turrets on a cruiser, rebuild them, do this as a rebuild, come back, and change these turrets into triples. And that's legal. And then, if that's and if the game's like, okay, turret armor's low, which, yeah, the turret armor here would be low. Once you have the turrets in place, I think it would let you bring the turret armor up. So I can basically build, once I have B turret for CAs, I could effectively build like Cleveland's or Brooklyn's out of old armored cruiser hulls. Now, in terms of replacing machinery, I think I can only go like 25 knots, right? Yeah. So I can only go 25 knots on a Benbow. That's kind of a problem, because that's slow, and they don't have any torpedo defense. And if I bulge it, well, it's 22 knots now. Yeah. So if we look at the other older CAs, or if we look at the other CAs, and I'm honestly considering doing that to all of, or to everything except for the King Alfreds and Royal Oaks. Those might actually receive like proper machinery refits, because those ships are not going to be bad as fast cruisers. If I get them to be fast cruisers, they're still going to be relevant in the late game. Um, like, hold on. Let's see. So if I replace the machinery, how fast can I get it up to? So Royal Oak can go 28 knots if I refit her. Hell, I could refit her now and she'd go 28 knots. Although without a lot of spare weight remaining, it would be nice to get a little bit more, or to wait a little longer on those. But yeah, those could go 28 knots. That would be faster than my battle cruisers. The King Alfreds, are these going to be like 27 or 28? Yeah. I get the King Alfreds up to 27 knots. And, I need a little bit more technology to do that, but I could do that relatively soon. Um, And that might be a worthwhile investment, especially once machinery techs improve just a little bit. Um, yeah, including like a gun upgrade. Because I could do that to the King Alfreds, I could do that to the Royal Oaks, and, you know, even though that's a big refit, coming out of it, I get a strong heavy cruiser. Um, and, you know, I get to keep an old ship around, kind of keep its legacy going. And the only real issue with those is the torpedo defense. I can't even improve that right now because I don't have any technology on, or don't have TDS unlocked. Um, so those are slated for like a proper full rebuild sometime in the future because they're good enough ships as is that that can happen and then they can remain relevant. I mean, they could remain relevant until the late game, honestly. Like the AI will start to build, you know, large CAs with 10-inch guns, but they'll never go beyond like 12 10-inch guns. And these have 12 10-inch guns, although admittedly it's only a broadside of 8. But, you know, that's still going to be on par with a lot of the CAs that the AI would build at that time. So yeah, that's the future plan for these. They will stay in service conventionally for now, um, with the thought of that rebuild in the future, maybe even the near future. You know, maybe that's something which I do, you know, the construction round after the next one. But if we're going to the other thoughts, the issue with the Benbows is they're just kind of the worst suited ship out of all of these for that 6-inch conversion I was talking about, and probably also, you know, some of the worst suited, not the worst suited for the CVL conversion, but not up there. So the Diadems currently deployed in the Mediterranean, they don't have as big of guns. They only have 10-inch guns. So there's less weight I can get out of them. However, their hull form can be refit to higher speeds. I would assume, is this like 26 knots? Yeah, 26 knots for a Diadem. Um, and that's going to be 20, and that's going to be true of the Andromeda and Europa as well. So I could refit that up to 26 knots, and those would be colonial ships. You know, they're currently deployed in the Mediterranean to give me the displacement I need in that region. And so I would need these ships. The Mediterranean is a contested zone, and they would be worthwhile upgrades because they have that colonial tag already. Um, yeah, these ships would just be well suited for that style of conversion. And, you know, I would gladly take a bunch of 6-inch guns over just 4 10-inch guns. You know, if I can get 12, 15, 6-inch guns to a broadside, it's probably going to kick the crap out of a 10-inch gun cruiser. And, you know, if we're talking like a 6.5-inch belt, and then I can get the turrets to something similar or decent, or similar or more, because I mean, I built these kind of as pre-Dread-esque ships. Yeah, that could be that could be very dangerous to another CA. Camper Downs. The thing with the Camper Downs is, although right now they're worse than a Benbow, you know, I've mentioned this before. I Benbow versus a Camper Down, I think a Benbow would win. They have more tonnage, they have bigger turrets, and that means more weight. So the Camper Downs, it's easier to do the conversion I'm talking about, or a CVL conversion. I think that holding the Camper Downs for a CVL conversion may even be better than the whole 6-inch cruiser idea. And then if we go to the Andromedas and Europas, the ones built around 7 and 6-inch guns, I could see the Europas being a little bit more. These could be a little bit more difficult to refit, but they do have that extra knot of speed. They are of similar size. I think they actually do have more total turret mass. Um, so I very much could rebuild these two classes into that as well. You know, into the design I was talking about. You know, the Cleveland or the Brooklyn layout. Might not even be particularly bad in Europa because she already has the No, I'd have to remove the twin turrets for singles because you can't take a twin to a triple. The game does not allow that. I have tested that. You can only take a single to a triple. Um, but yeah, Europa would need to be refit, or these would need to be refit, and that is in the plans for the Europa class and the Andromeda class, of which there are 8 Andromedas and how many Europas? 3 Europas. So that's 11 ships, possibly undergoing that style of refit. There are 10 Benbows. And in terms of these refits, their use is just far more questionable because they can't hit the same speeds as the other ones. I could also, convert some of the Andromedas into CVLs too. Andromedas would make a perfect fit for a CVL conversion, more so than a Benbow. Um, so, in looking at the CAs I have, the Benbows are mostly unnecessary. So, I'm trying to decide what I should do with the class. Um, and this is also, I guess, vaguely falling into a same camp as the Pearls and Phoebes. So, one thought is, I potentially keep a Benbow or two around as a potential replacement for the Diadems. Um, so something where I scrap, multiple members of the class, leave a couple around. Just as kind of, just as a backup if the Diadems fall. I can move a Benbow into their place. Um, so that's a consideration. Maybe not scrap all the Benbows, but scrap a number of them. One thought is to intentionally reserve one of the Benbows to do that kind of cruiser rebuild. Like basically an early experiment of that sort of cruiser rebuild, um, just so I can kind of get an idea of how it performs. And maybe that's something I even do sooner rather than later. And maybe I do keep a Benbow around for a CVL conversion. Although, I don't know, I'd probably want to do like the camper downs first. So maybe I don't with that. So I guess the next discussion is, what do I do with the Benbows? And also, I'm wanting people to have discussion down below and just bring up ideas on what to do. You know, with the Benbows, do I scrap them? Do I try to actually rebuild like one or two into relevant ships, or like an experimental sort of ship? Like, okay, we're trying this on a Benbow, and we intend to later do this on like a Europa or an Andromeda. Actually, the Europas already have how much of broadside? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, no, 2, 4, then 5. That'd be 9. So they already have a 9-gun broadside. So the big rebuild would be getting them to a 12-gun broadside. Or 15. And a faster speed. Okay, yeah, that would be decent. Um, yeah. So yeah, main consideration: what to do with the CAs. Um, do I even bother with any of the Benbows, or do I just stick to doing that with Andromedas and Europas and CVL converters for the camper downs? Presumably the diadems go the 6-inch route. Um, yeah, or does a Benbow wind up becoming kind of the first ship of that, and then the rest of the Benbows get scrapped, or maybe I keep a couple Benbows around just for foreign station duties while the whenever the diadems get refit. Although, I could also, I mean, I guess when the diadems get refit, I'd have a bunch of like Andromedas around, so that's maybe not even necessary. Maybe it is something where I wind up scrapping like most of the all or most of the Benbows right now, and If you're curious, I'll quickly go through the individual Benbows and check the battle stars here. So, you know, if you're for a big refit to some of the Benbows of some sort, or keeping some around for some reason, tell me which ones you want kept around. Because at the very least, some of the Benbows are getting scrapped. Um, it's just how many. Yeah, the main concern right now is how many Benbows are getting scrapped, and what's the fate of the ones which don't. Okay, that's where I'm at with the Benbows. The next big question, and I feel like this might be something which has relevance not in the next episode, but possibly the episode after that, or even the episode after that one. Um, yeah, this will probably have more relevance in the next 2 to 3 episodes. Is coming up with a plan for the fleet construction. Because if you notice, like, okay, we're getting Andromash in 2 months, and in about 5 to 6 months, we get this first group of Ness class destroyers. After that, we're 7 months away from some Corvettes, 8 months away from another couple Corvettes, as well as the new battlecruiser Leopard and the light cruiser Venus. After that, we are 9 months away from 4 more destroyers. Well, not 9 months. Okay, goddamn. Okay, what am I saying? Okay, so 5 months away from some Nest class, 6 months away from this one Nest class, 7 away from some Corvettes, and then a month after those Corvettes commission, we get 2 more Corvettes, a light cruiser, and a battle cruiser. A month after that, we get another light cruiser and 4 destroyers, and then the next month we get 2 more light cruisers. And then the month after that, we get another AV. We're gonna have a period of like 3 months where we get all of our major, or yeah, we get all of our remaining major construction done. And that right now is about 10 months away. That would be late 1916. So the thought is, when that budget comes in, what do I do with it? What is the plan? Now, my first priority, my biggest priority right now, if we look at the almanac, is more battlecruisers. We have 3 in service in 1 building. Germany has 6, and they've been a principal enemy. Russia has 5. USA has 6. Japan and Italy each have 4. I am behind in the battlecruiser race right now. Tonnage wise, like if we're looking tonnage wise with what I have compared to what other nations have, I'm second worst. No, I have the second least battlecruiser tonnage in the world. Um, and even when the one I have, and once all the remaining battlecruisers are completed, I'll be the worst in the world. So I need to get battlecruisers done. I My top priority right now is battlecruisers. I want to have 2 more battlecruisers under construction. When Leopard is completed, when Leopard gets completed and commissioned into the Navy, that month, or I'll accept like the month after, or the month after that. I would say this. By the end of 1916, Leopard needs to be done, and I need to have at least another 2 battlecruisers under construction that are better than Leopard. At least slightly better than Leopard. So that is the first priority. Getting the battlecruisers done. Now, if you have thoughts as to what battlecruiser design I should build, you can throw them at me. If we open up Leopard, one thought would be something like this. Because let's see, so that's 1442. And if we open up Leopard's design, if I were to build Leopard now, we'd have 861 weight remaining. So I think that I would wind up going with this gun layout. Now, the part of the question is, would I go 16-inch guns or would I go 17-inch guns? Or would it be better for me to go 14-inch guns? I would definitely also do an oil-fired ship, probably 28 knots. The other consideration is armor. Um, I could do an all-or-nothing scheme. I don't think that's super meta. The other meta option would be trying to increase the deck. Um, but, when I build this battle cruiser, I probably don't want to make it too big. Because the bigger I make it, the more that cost goes up, and, the more it costs me to build. Like, if I'm at 36,000 tons with this ship, that's a jump from what? That's a jump about 500 per turn? Let's say, 16-inch guns. So, if we're going 39,000 tons on this, this is 5,000 a month. I've increased it a full 1,000 a month to get something like this. So, the question is that worth it? You know, what sort of battle cruiser does what sort of battle cruiser design should I be pursuing? Should I, instead pursue like 6-gun ships with 16-inch guns? Should I, go for the Q0s and the 14s and try to get something decent out of that? If we look at what other nations have, um, Germany's got this, so 414s would be superior firepower to this. I'd just have to go faster and have better armor. And honestly, this probably has a 2-inch belt. Or not 2-inch belt, 2-inch deck. 2-inch belt would be horrible. A 10-inch belt with a 4-inch deck is better than a 12-inch belt with a 2-inch deck. If it's slope deck. If it's all or nothing, that's not the case. But if it's slope deck, that is the case. So there is an argument to go with a lighter belt and a thicker deck. Is what I'm saying. If you're going to be suggesting stuff, I mean the Moltkas are kind of garbage. If we look at really the main one is Derflinger. Um, France is building three 28,000-ton battle cruisers. Russia right now, I mean their top one is this. That's not greatly efficient. It does have an 813-inch gun broadside, and they are building more of them. So I would have to build something, capable of effectively countering that. I mean, my next preferred enemy is probably France, but, my guess is that France is building something very similar to this. So what we should expect out of France is basically this. France should be building something which is similar to the Derflinger. Given the tonnage here, it looks like they're probably using the same template or a very similar template, and I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out looking almost the same. So I should probably just assume, like, France is building 3 of these right now. And I'd be close enough to correct, probably. And, think of how to counter that. Well, okay. Lion would counter it. Or Lion and Leopard would counter 2 of them. But if we're fighting France, versus Dunkirk and Lille, my older 2 battlecruisers, Indomitable and Invincible, only they're kind of even with these 2. And then, although Tourville isn't much, that's an extra French battlecruiser. And then, they'd have an extra Leon class too. So I'd have to figure out, how to get enough battlecruisers to effectively counter that. If we're going Russia, right now they have 5 in service. So, we could say Leopard's a counter to this, Lion's a counter to this, 2 more. then what? And then, once they get these new ones done, then what? United States, maybe I shouldn't be expecting to beat as much. I mean, the constitutions are scarier. Maybe we should build something to actually beat them rather than just fight them, especially considering that they're building larger battlecruisers with the Congress and Essex class. Um, yeah, take an investigation on what to do there. Japan, I mean, their battlecruisers aren't very strong. I could probably beat them. Italy's in a little bit of a stronger boat, although these are slow. Um, well, I mean, Italy's my friend, so I shouldn't really have to worry about countering Italian battlecruisers right now, because, they're friendly, and hopefully they stay friendly. Um, and, okay, Japan's just building more of these things, and they're not particularly great. But yeah, considerations would probably be the Constitution, whatever Congress and Essex wind up being, uh, more of these things. Uh, you know, whatever the Leons are going to be, as well as, their flinger, and how to effectively, develop battlecruiser core to counter these ships. Right now, if we look at battleships, if you're concerned at all, I'm not greatly concerned by any battleship I currently see. Some of these other ones, oh, these are looking kind of bigger. So it does look like some nations are starting to really build out their battleship core, but nothing's touching the Orions so far. Orion and Caesar are just so far on top, it just doesn't matter. Um, I mean, the rest of the battleship core is weaker, but, I have a commanding lead in terms of battleships. I need to make up in terms of battle cruisers. So, that's the situation. Um, I guess, what do you recommend I do? You know, leave that below in the comments, I guess. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching this video. Links to my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter are down below. You can also send suggestions to me on Discord. It will probably be at least a couple of days before I record the next video in the series. So, that'll give you a little bit of time to input suggestions, and do all that. I think all the major concerns are brought up. The other major concern I should mention, CLs. Yeah, CLs. Uh, I have 4 being built. I probably need more, and I probably need to keep the destroyer printer going. Um, if I have spare funds, do I invest them in CLs? Do I invest them in AV conversions? Do I invest them in CA conversions? That's going to be another thing. And do I try to downsize battle cruisers enough so that I have spare funds to do these lighter ship builds and lighter ship conversions? Anyway, yeah, with all that, thank you for watching. Links to my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter are down below. This is a 0.5 episode that is longer than a normal episode. Well, actually, it's not longer than a lot of normal episodes, but it is longer than some of the normal episodes. So, yeah, thanks. See you next time. Have some discussion below. Help me out on this. Uh, yeah. That's all I gotta say. Bye.